Once tears began to fall freely now, streaming down her cheek with no restraint. Seeing her like that made Jungkook's heart race painfully fast. He knew exactly what she must be feeling right now: hurt, betrayal, and confusion. When Jungkook took a step closer, Wine immediately stepped back, her eyes wide and trembling, and before he could say a word, Wine turned and ran out of the room. Wine! Wine, stop! Jungkook shouted, running after her. Please listen to me. But Wine didn't stop. She burst out of the office door, hailed a taxi, and disappeared down the road before Jungkook could reach her. His pulse thundered in his ears, panic surged through him as he rushed to his car, starting the engine with shaky hands. He sped through the street, his heart pounding harder with every second. By the time he reached home, Wine was already there. He rushed upstairs to their bedroom, but the door was locked. He began banging on it desperately. Wine, please open the door, please, he shouted, his voice breaking. Let me explain. I know I hide something huge from you, but please don't do this to me. He hit the door again and again, his forehead pressed against it, but from the other side there was only silence. His chest ached as he whispered in a trembling voice, Wine, I had my reason. Please, just let me explain. Don't hate me. Please, I'll do everything you say. Just give me a chance to tell you everything. After what felt like forever, he heard the faint click of the door. The door opened slowly. One stood there, her eyes red and glistening with tears. But her expression was cold. Anger burned through the pain in her gaze. Jungkook could feel it. He had made her feel unwanted, untrusted. He took a step forward, but Wine immediately stepped back. Her voice was icy as he spoke. Said, what do you want to explain? Jungkook stood across from her, lowering his head. For a moment he couldn't even meet her eyes. Then, in a soft, calm, almost broken tone, he began, I know I made a huge mistake hiding this from you. But I didn't do it intentionally. I had a reason. He lifted his eyes slowly, meeting her tear-streaked face. Jungkook drew a shaky breath, his eyes glistening as he finally began to speak. I had a brother, he said softly. He was everything to me, mature, kind, responsible. He was good at everything, his voice trembling slightly. Then he got married to the girl he truly loved. He adored her with all his heart, but she never loved him back. His jaw tightened, pain flashing in his eyes. She was only with him for money. When his company went bankrupt, she walked away, just like that. Left him at his lowest, when he needed her the most. Jungkook's voice cracked. He broke down completely. He stopped for a moment. His thought tightened as his eyes filled with tears. I watched him fall apart, one, and I couldn't save him. One's eyes glistening too, as she listened in silence. Her heart ached for him, seeing the man who always appeared strong now shaking in front of her. Jungkook swallowed hard and looked at her again. After that, I started to believe every girl was the same, chasing money, not love. He took a deep breath, his voice low, trembling. Until I met you. He looked at her, eyes softened. You weren't like them. You accepted me for who I am. You never asked for anything, you never left my side. His voice broke into a whisper. I know I made a terrible mistake hiding this from you, but I was scared that if you knew you had hit me, I didn't want to lose you too. He stepped closer, tears spilling down his face. I'm sorry, Wine. I'll take you give me everything you say, but please don't leave me. He paused, his voice barely above a whisper. I love you, Wine. I really love you. For the first few days, I have been falling for you harder than I ever thought I could, and this isn't a lie. The room fell silent. Only the sound of their shaky breaths filled the air. After a few moments, Jungkook spoke again, voice fragile. Please, Wine, don't shut me out. Don't close yourself off from me. Wine lifted her eyes to him, filled with tears, pain and confusion. Her voice quivered. I just need some time, Jungkook. I needed time for myself. My mind is a mess right now. She paused, her tone shifting, soft but cold. You know, Jungkook, I grew up with my uncle and aunt. They gave me a roof, food, shelter, everything except love. I always feel unwanted in that house. Her lips trembled as she continued. But when I came here with you, for the first time, it felt like home. I feel like I belong somewhere. She looked down, tears falling again. I started to feel something for you too, but after everything, I just feel betrayed. Jungkook's chest tightened. Slowly, he stepped closer, carefully this time, raising his hand to her face, his palm resting gently against her cheek as he wiped away her tears with trembling fingers. Take as much time as you need, he whispered, voice soft and sincere, but I promise, Wan, I'll make it up to you. I'll fix everything. Wan just looked at him for a moment, her eyes filled with silent conflict. Then she turned her gaze away, saying nothing. The distance between them remained. But in that quiet, heavy air, both could feel the edge of love, guilt, and something that still refused. A few days had already passed, and during those days, Wine had grown distant from Jungkook. She kept a little space between them, space to calm her mind, to quiet the storm of thoughts that constantly tangled with her. But Jungkook, he never stopped trying, as he had promised. He kept finding ways to make her smile again. Every morning he would drop her off, every night he would pick her up, always with a small gift in hands. He would try to start conversation, to draw even the faintest smile from her lips, to bring back the warmth she once showed him. Slowly, piece by piece, one began to melt again. Something inside her began to soften, but still she remained cold, her words few and distant, speaking only when necessary. But for Jungkook, every time she looked away, every silence from her lips, it hurt, it ached deep in his chest. Still, he never gave up. He couldn't, even if it took years, even decades. He would keep trying again and again for her. And now it was night. Jungkook and Wan were in his car, heading toward the Jeon mansion. Tonight was Mr. and Mrs. Jeon's anniversary, and a small get-together had been arranged. Jungkook, Wan, and her family include. Wan sat quietly beside Jungkook, hands fragile on her lap. Her nerves tightened with every passing second. Her sister would be there, along with her uncle and aunt. The thought alone made her uneasy, though she didn't say a word about Jungkook. However, he understood. Without needing any explanation, he reached for her hand, resting on her lap, and gave a warm and protective one look at him with those blank eyes. But Jungkook smiled softly and said, It's okay. I'll always stay by your side, so don't be nervous. She didn't reply, but deep within her something stirred. That unspoken care, the quiet love she had never found anywhere else. It made her heart race uncontrollably. How did he understand her so easily? Her silence, her nervousness, everything. Without saying a word, she turned her face towards the window, hiding the tiny flicker of emotion in her eyes. Jungkook said nothing more. The car continued forward. The soft hum of the engine blending into the silence that surrounded them both. As they stepped inside the grand June mansion, the soft hum of the conversation filled the air. In the living room, Mr. Kim and Mrs. Kim and their daughter Emma were already seated, chatting casually about business and family matters with Mr. and Mrs. June. But the moment Wine and Jungkook entire room fell silent. All eyes turned towards them. Emma's eyes widened in disbelief. She froze for a moment, then stood abruptly from the couch, her mouth slightly open. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Jungkook standing tall, confident and composed. Mr. and Mrs. Kim's face also turned pale. They exchanged uneasy glances before slowly rising from their seats. From the other side, Mr. and Mrs. Jones stood up with warm smiles. "Oh, you both came? Come in, come in." Mrs. Jones said cheerfully, walking forward to welcome them. Jungkook and Hwan stepped further inside, hand in hand. The tension in the room was almost tangible. Mr. Kim's voice trembled slightly as he spoke, unable to hide his shock. "Jungkook, you are okay? I mean..." Jungkook's expression remained unreadable. His tone was cold, calm and carried an edge. "Yeah," he replied. Mrs. Kim blinked, her voice uncertain. "Then why are you pretending all this time? I mean..." But Jungkook cut her off before she could finish. His gaze was sharp, yet his voice stayed firm and composed. "Because I had my own reasons," he said simply. Then turning his head slightly, he looked at Wine beside him. His eyes softened as a faint smile tugged at his lip. Wine, who had been quietly looking at him, quickly looked away, her expression unreadable, but her heart thudded fast. Across the room, Emma still stood frozen, her eyes wide, stayed locked on Jungkook. Her breath hissed as realization stuck deeper and deeper. And at that moment, regret washed over her like a wave. For everything she had done, for everything she had lost. After the cake cutting ceremony ended, the atmosphere in the Jeon mansion turned light and cheerful. Everyone had gathered in a small group, chatting and laughing about old memories and business matters. Jungkook stood near the lounge, finishing a quick phone call with Jimin. His expression was calm, his voice low and composed as always. After ending the call, he slipped his phone into his pocket and turned to head back inside. But before he could take a step, a familiar voice called softly, "Hi." He turned. It was Ema. Jungkook's expression didn't change. His tone was cold. "Yes." Ema tucked a stand of hair behind her ear, shyly, lips curling into a hesitant smile. "How are you? I didn't know that you are not. You are not." But before she could finish, Jungkook's eyes darkened. His voice dropped low and cold. "Why? If you knew, then what?" He raised a brow, his gaze sharp. "Would you have married me instead of your sister? Then it's good that I didn't marry the girl like you." Emma breath caught. His words hit like a... She felt embarrassed. Jungkook's lip curled into a faint, mocking smirk. "Excuse me now, my wife is waiting for me." He turned to leave, but Emma quickly stepped in front of him, forcing a nervous smile. No, it's not like that, Jungkook. It's just back then I want to focus on my career. That's why I didn't want to marry. But I realized before she could finish, another voice cut through the air. You did the right thing. Both of them turned. It was Wine, her tone calm but edged with quiet confidence. She walked closer, slipping her hand through Jungkook's arms possessively. Thanks to you for not marrying him, she said, with a small cold smile. Because if you didn't refuse, I would have never found such a handsome, loving husband. Her words were polite, but her tone carried a subtle sting. Jungkook looked down at her, a flicker of surprise softened in his eyes. Wang gave him a faint knowing smile before glancing back at Ema, whose jaw had tightened, fist clenched by her sides. Wang titled her head slightly. Anyways, your dad calling us, she said softly, looking back at Jungkook. He nodded. Let's go. The two of them walked away together. Wang's hand still looped around his arms. Behind them, Emma stood frozen, her smile gone, her heart sinking with bitter regret for the choices she made. As they walked down the hallway, Jungkook's lips curved into a subtle smirk. His voice was teasing as he leaned a little closer to Wayne. So was that true? Wayne frowned, looking up at him. What? She asked, her tone cold. He grinned slightly. That I am handsome and loving husband? Wayne immediately let go of his arms, lowering her eyes. You are not the only one who can act good, Jungkook. I am good at acting too, she said coldly, walking a few steps ahead of him. Jungkook chuckled under his breath, following her behind. But why do I feel like you are telling the truth? Wine glanced sideways, trying to hide the small smile tugging at her lips. I wasn't, she said quickly. Jungkook smirked again, his voice playful. Oh really? Wine didn't answer, just kept walking, her cheeks slightly flushed. Eddie slow chuckled, echoing softly behind her. The evening was almost at its end. The soft glow of the city lights shimmered below the balcony, painting one's face in hues of gold and blue. She stood there quietly lost in thoughts, the cool breeze brushing against her hair. She felt familiar warmth. Jungkook had come up behind her, tall and composed, his presence calm yet intense. Without saying a word, he wrapped his arms around her from behind. One flinched slightly, startled. The closeness was new to her, still unfamiliar. She tried to turn around, but Jungkook didn't let her. Instead, he rested his chin on the top of her head. His hold around her waist tightened as if he was afraid to lose her again. Her heart began to race. Jungkook leaned closer, his breath faint and warm against her neck. Then, in a deep, husky voice that carried both pain and tenderness, he whispered, I'm sorry. He paused for a moment, his voice breaking softly against the silence. I know I made a huge mistake, but please, at least forgive me now. A quiet sigh escaped him before he continued. I know it's hard for you. I know it feels like a betrayal. But please give me one last chance. I promise I won't disappoint you. I'll earn your trust again and everything else I broke. I swear I will. His words hung in the air like fragile promises heavy with emotion. One didn't reply. She stood still, her silence pressing painfully against Jungkook's heart. The longing she stayed quiet, the tighter his grip became, the silence shuttered him. Finally, after what felt like forever, one turned around slowly. Her eyes met his, and for a moment everything stopped. Jungkook's gaze was raw, filled with sincerity, regret, and the love so deep it almost hurt to look at. The guilt, the longing, the pain of his mistake, all were written clearly across his face. And as Wine stared into those eyes, something inside her softened. She saw the effort he had made in the past few weeks, the way she tried to fix everything he had once broke. Bit by bit, the walls around her heart began to melt. Wine's heart thud wildly inside her chest. For a brief moment, she just stared at Jungkook, at the way his eyes softened, filled with longing and remorse. Then, without thinking much, she tiptoed on her feet and leaning. Her lips brushed softly against his, just a fading peck, barely a second long, but enough to make Jungkook's eyes widen in surprise. Before he could say anything, Wine whispered gently, I know you had your reason for doing all this, and I understand. Everyone makes mistakes in their life. Her voice trembled slightly, soft, forgiving, yet carrying a hint of hurt. Then her tone changed, firmer, a touch of restrained anger lacing through her words. But this is your last chance, Jungkook. If you ever hide anything from me again, she paused, meeting his eyes directly. Then you will see. Jungkook immediately shook his head, his expression despite and sincere. Never, I'll never hide anything from you again, he said quietly, his voice deep, filled with emotion. I promise. Before one could breathe out, Jungkook closed the distance between them and captured her lips. The kiss was sudden, then melting into something softer, deeper. Wine gasped, her hand instinctively fisting into the fabric of his shirt. Then she kissed him back, slowly, tenderly, passionately. It was a kiss that carried everything, their love, their pain, their unsaid confessions, their forgiveness. Moments later, the spell was broken by a sudden voice. Jungkook, everyone's calling you. Ima's voice trailed off as she froze at the sight before her. Wine instantly pulled away, flustered, her cheeks burning. Jungkook turned sharply towards Ema, his expression darkened. Actually, he said in a cold, irritated tone, we are little busy right now. Ema stood frozen, her face pale. She don't know what to do. Jungkook's cold voice cut through the tension again, his eyes sharp. Can you please leave? Ema flinched slightly at his tone, then quickly nodded before walking away, embarrassed and speechless. Jungkook turned back to Wine, muttering under his breath with a faint scroll. She's so irritating. Wine couldn't help but smile softly. She actually is, she said, her tone light, teasing. Their eyes met again, and for the first time for a long while they both smiled together. Jungkook slipped his arms around her waist, pulling her closer against his chest. His voice dropped, deep, husky, against her ear. Thank you for forgiving me. Wine smiled faintly, her heart fluttering. Then, without another word, Jungkook leaned in again. Their lips met once more, this time slow and full of warmth. It wasn't just a kiss of love, but of trust, of promise, and of two hearts finally finding their ways back to each other.